Welcome to the Microsoft Teams for Higher Education Champions course. You all have been hand-selected to be champions and the first at ASU to be trained in everything Microsoft Teams. So super excited to be here. We're going to start off with some intros. We've got myself and three other folks from Microsoft here today to talk about Teams and show you the basics and then some more advanced features of Teams. So I'll start. I'm Sarah Joshi. Many of you met me last month when I was out here doing product demos, talking about Teams. I'm an ASU alum, graduated from Dopey, Carey, and Barrett in 2010. Really happy to be back on campus, and it's a surreal feeling. I actually used to take a CIS class in this room, so it's weird to be on the other side of the table.
So my name is Michael Leshichka. I work on the Microsoft Teams within the engineering product group, focusing mostly on the education vertical for working with universities as well as ISV partners working on apps integrations with Microsoft Teams. I did my undergrad actually in Vancouver, Canada, UBC. I don't know if everyone knows where that school is, but that's where I went to school and did my graduate school at University of Chicago.
We've got our two local Microsoft folks. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hey folks, I'm Kathleen Wetherell. I am the Modern Workplace Solutions Specialist. I cover all Office 365 and enterprise mobility and security. I actually didn't graduate from here, but I spoke here about a year ago to about 40 colleges about enterprise mobility and security. I've been at Microsoft for about 4 years now, based in the Bay Area.
I'm Jake Ducharme. I'm a West Coast Cloud Architect for Office 365 Education. Office 365 quite a bit. We're ACA with someone. So been here a few times. So good, bunch of familiar faces. It's good to see everyone.
Awesome. So quickly want to talk about our agenda for today and what you can expect to get out of this session. So we'll spend a few minutes setting up, making sure everyone's ready to go with Teams. We'll cover what we're calling Teams 101. So Drew in our audience has so kindly agreed to be our demoer on your tenant today. So we'll be walking through some basic training pieces. Drew will be actually executing those. We'll have a fun activity during the basic session for everyone to do, and then we'll move on to what we're calling 201, and we'll do a breakout session. So we'll split up into smaller groups and have a discussion around higher education specific scenarios like department collaboration, research collaboration, and then classroom collaboration, and talk about adoption strategies and concerns and how to overcome some of the common adoption challenges that we see in the university setting. Finally, we'll wrap up, and with whatever remaining time, we'll do Q&A. I ask that while we're in the session, if you can post all of your questions on the feedback channel in our Champions team. Raise your hand if you're not in the team. Everyone should be in the team. Okay. We have a few hands, so let's make sure we get these folks added to the Champions team.
So they're designated admin who invited you to this, right? They can request that.
Oh.
That's how it should do. That's how it should work.
Actually, she's wanting them to actually be added to the actual champion
Our team.
So Josh would.
I hear that.
So it's not.
But it still needs to be requested through their admin or owner.
Okay, so we'll make sure we get you all added to the Champions team. We'll be referencing that as we go through this training. And if you aren't in the team yet, save your Q&A. We can cover that after the session, or make a friend next to you that is in the team and have them post your question as well. And whatever we don't get to cover today in the Q&A, please do continue posting your questions, and we'll be, I'm a guest on the tenant, so I'll be able to check in and answer your questions. So our goals, by the end of today, you will be an expert on getting started with Teams. You will be fully proficient in how to get started with Teams, how to get others started with Teams, and getting people excited about Teams. Understand common adoption challenges with Teams and some strategies to overcome, and be armed with resources to train your team. This training is designed in a way that you can literally take the deck and all of the materials and go do this training with all of your users in your individual departments or schools. That's the goal. So it's train the trainers. You are all considered champions, and you will be trainers. And so I want you to be able to walk out of this room feeling confident and excited and ready to roll out Teams in your organization. So before we dive in, I want to make sure everyone has a laptop. Does anyone not have a laptop with them? You can do most from your phone. So I think you'll be okay. But if you have a friend next to you with a laptop, you can always peek over and see what they're doing. Most of you should already have your teams configured. So I know Josh and Will and team, we're setting up feverishly everyone's teams that you've requested. As we go through the training, feel free to do what we're doing up in front in your own team, or pick a team. The other thing you can do, if you are in the champions team, I've created the playground channel. And so use that playground, or I know Drew created a feature testing channel. Use those channels to play around with different features, and as we're going through, you can do a lot of this stuff. So it's meant to be interactive, so definitely follow along. And the goal, again, is for you all to walk out feeling proficient and ready to go with teams. So before we dive into the deep how-to, just to give a closer look to Microsoft Teams, I think most of you were at our intro, but just to refresh. So we believe Teams is a great collaboration tool, and you can consider it as your hub for teamwork and collaboration as part of the Office 365 suite. Teams is all about working better and working smarter with the people you collaborate with closely. This definitely comes into play when you think about department collaboration. So how are you collaborating on the budget request for next year, or student admission process, or maybe it's a research proposal that you're working on together to get grant funding. It could also be classroom. So we have professors using Teams with students. And so the goal is to keep everyone in the know. So Teams is all about radical transparency. And so the idea is we're getting away from email silos and information silos and tribal knowledge, and the goal is to really bring everyone together into a single place and communicate openly and share files so everyone knows what's going on. You can meet, so there's meetings and calling experience and chat, so you can go from chatting 101 to chatting in a group to having a video call with everyone included, all in a few clicks. Voice and video, again, part of that meeting experience. And it's a single workspace. Think of it as your canvas for being productive and going about your day as well as your team's day and how you collaborate together. And you can customize it for your team. You can customize it for yourself in the way your team works. Maybe there's a third-party tool like Trello, for instance, that your team already uses. You can choose to bring that into your team experience. It's completely fully integrated in a single experience to bring together chat, messages, teams and channels, as well as Office 365 tools like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, co-editing, co-authoring, Power BI. It's all in one place. And my favorite part, which you're all showing it already in this room, cross-device support. So Teams is where you are. You can be on your PC, you can be on your Mac, you can be on your iPhone, you can be on your Android device, you can be on a giant Surface Hub if you have one of those. Teams works seamlessly across all of those devices. One point on the mobile piece. The majority of the tasks that you do on a regular basis, you can accomplish on your phone with Teams. So chatting, calling, sharing files, making sure you're up to date on the latest activity in your team channel. You can do that all from your Android or iOS device, or a Windows phone if any of you in the audience have Windows phones. But I'm sure the majority of you have iPhones or Android devices. So with that, I'd like everyone to pick up their phone and navigate to the App Store and search for Microsoft Teams and download it if you haven't already, and then log in with your ASU credentials. And you should see the Champions team, aside from those that we're going to get you added to that. And I'd love for you to go to the Playground channel and put a GIF or a message or something funny just to say that you're there. And we'll spend about a minute doing that, just to make sure everyone has Teams on their phone and they're ready to go. And I am going to pull up our team to see what's happening. Playground. I don't see anything yet.
I'll do that one right here.
That one, here we go, here we go.
Everyone's distracted.
Drinking from the fire hose, right? All right, here we go. Folks who didn't bring their laptops, I expect you to be on the phone, because different memories are the teams right now. All right, so Jordan, you're on there now. You can see how easy it is. Teams looks really similar. You see a bunch of the same features that you'd see either in the web client or desktop client. But the goal is for you to be able to be productive on the go. It's less about you having to be saddled to your PC or your machine to be able to be productive. You can be productive everywhere. So we've got some fun stuff going on. And I will say, this is all about the Teams culture. So we're trying to, Teams is meant to be a fun, playful, conversational product. It's not meant to be like a buttoned up corporate product. You can obviously have buttoned up corporate conversations, bless you, but it's meant to be fun and exciting. And like this, exactly. This is great. This is great.
That's the first gift result for ASU.
Yes. Yes. As it should be. As it should be.
Oh, hilarious. Somebody's going to be.
I just looked for a second, I couldn't handle it.
All right.
Shoot, was that your freshman year again?
All right. So, everyone has Teams on their phone, so that's great. Now I'd like everyone to open up their laptops. I think everyone has their laptops open except for our two friends that are on their mobile only today, which is great. Go to teams.com/Microsoft/start in any web browser. And then if you haven't already downloaded the Mac or PC client, go do that. You can do that from teams.microsoft.com/download. I want to make sure that you have Teams on all of your devices before you walk out of here today. So with that, as you guys download, I'm going to ask Drew to come up here and be our demoer. So one of our goals is, I can stand up here and do a bunch of demos and show you how to do stuff. I think it's stickier if you see it in your own tenant. So with the team that's in your tenant, one that you're part of, Champions team, and driven by one of your own. So Drew's here to help out and drive. So we're going to unplug, and folks on the phone, you may. So we're back on? Okay, so as we're going through each of these, some of these steps may feel really, really basic, but bear with me, because when you're training people on Teams, I would say the majority is intuitive, but we want to make sure that you are comfortable with the basics before we move into more advanced topics. So we'll definitely go from simple to more advanced as we go through the session. If there's something you're not getting, or like, oh, I didn't get that step, raise your hand, we'll slow down, make sure everyone's getting it. So we've got 15 things we want to teach you today. I'm going to try to time box this so we have enough time for the second part of the session. There may be a few things that we'll need to skip, in which case I will be sharing out how-tos for the rest of the stuff after this. So before we start in Teams itself, so a quick note, when you click on Create and Join Team, right now that's disabled. So that's on purpose. We at ASU has created a process, a special process to be able to request teams that are supposed to be created. So I think Josh, Will, team, you'll be sharing out that formal process of how to actually go through those steps. But there's a request process, and then a team will be created for you. So I'll skip that team creation process for now. A quick note, there are different team types that you can request. So you can create an anyone type, which is the classic team, which many of you have already requested. There's a class type, which is for a classroom scenario. There's a PLC, which is a professional learning community. And then there's a staff team type. Staff team may be a great option for your own department and staff collaboration. So to dive into it, first we're going to invite someone to a team. So if you want to go and actually figure out, there's an ellipsis here, maybe you want to invite someone to a champions team.
Okay.
So if you click on, oh, you don't have those permissions. Can we do one of the ones you own? Are you owner on your teams?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to one where you're an owner. And so only owners can invite people to teams. So add members. So here you can see you have an option to add a member. So there are different type membership options. So do you want to add me as a guest and you can remove me?
Sure.
So if you want to, essay seller, FE, that one. And you can see that I'm already a guest on the tenant, so I show up, I'm recognized, and I press add. So it'll think for a little minute, and then it should say that I'm added as a guest.
So this is a good point where when a team is requested from us, we will create the team and grant an owner rights, but we won't fill your members. So this is where you would need to do that to say, this is all of our members. We need the member list because we need to license them currently, but as an owner, we expect you to do this.
Awesome. So if you press close, and then go back to that ellipsis on your team where you just added me to, and go to manage team. So this is your team management center. This, as you as an owner, you get to control all of the privileges that you want to grant to each individual member. So you can see I'm a guest, so I can't be promoted to member, I can't be promoted to owner because I'm a guest on the ASU tenant. But for those who are members, Drew could decide to make Timothy an owner, in which case he'll be able to add people, he'll be able to do more than what a normal member can do. A quick note, in the class team type, if some of you have already requested that, you think about an owner should be the professor, and maybe a TA, if the professor want to give the TA, they want to give them that privilege, and then all the students should be members. If you just think about that, and maybe there's a guest lecturer from industry, you might invite them as a guest on your tenant. Within this team management portal, if you click on settings, you can manage some team settings like a team picture, member permissions. You can choose what guests are allowed to do. So there are certain things that, like Josh has taken away my ability to do video calls because I'm a guest, but I can do other features. So you can control what guests can do, what members can do versus owners. You can also control app mentions, and I'll talk a little bit about app mentions later, but you can restrict who can app mention the entire channel, for instance. So the membership types are super important because that'll dictate some of the way that your team is administered and how you control the team, and also how people will interact with each other based on what they can do. Okay, so far so good. Next. Now we're going to go to look at your list of teams. So Drew here is a member of 4 different teams. As you start using teams more and more, you may find that you're part of many teams. Like I'm part of probably about 30 teams, and sometimes it becomes a lot to keep up with. And what we recommend is for you to use favorite teams and favorite channels. So here's your list of teams here, and you can see that Drew has all of them as a favorite. So he'll see the notifications for each team. But let's say that the ASU team champions, Drew's not going to look at that every day. I hope he does. I think he does. But let's say he decides to remove it as a favorite. So remove it as a favorite. So here you can see it's dropped from his list. So now it's gone from 4 to 3. He hasn't left the team. He's merely moved it. So if you click on more, it shows up there. So that's just sort of hiding it below the fold. It means that you don't necessarily need to keep up with it every day. So you may find you're part of teams that are bigger, maybe they have a lot of chatter, you're part of the project team but you're not driving it, you just want to observe what's going on and check in once in a while. We recommend that you remove it as a favorite and you hide it below the more and check in once in a while. So with email, I don't know if any of you are inbox 0 people, but I know I'm an inbox 0 person. And so I have this irrational need to remove emails from my inbox. And when I first started using Teams, I felt an irrational need to remove the bold. So if you drop down on the ASU Team Champions, you can see that it's bold. That means there's been some activity that's happened in one of the channels, and it goes bold when there's a notification. So I had this irrational need on our Teams team, so our product group. We manage everything on Teams, obviously. There's like hundreds of channels. There's so much activity happening every moment. And I felt the compulsion to have to click on everything so the bold would go away. Just number 1 tip I can give you, do not feel that, just resist that compulsion. You'll never be able to keep up with everything. And you need to make sure that you're keeping up with what's important to you. So favorite teams is the first tip there. The second tip is favorite channels. So within a team, your team maybe you have 40 channels because there's a lot of different work streams you're tracking, or You maybe not need to follow along every single one every single day, but you may want to check in occasionally. So here you can see, let's say you want to remove playground as your favorite. So press remove favorite. You can see that it comes under as 2 more channels. And if you click there, then you can see that, oh, instructions is bolded. Maybe I'll check in there once a week and see what's going on. This is another way to hide the bold, if that makes sense, to remove that compulsion that I don't know if anyone else has, but I definitely have. So you can also reorder teams. So let's say that ASU Teams Champions is not the most important team to you, but OCAD, that one is the most important one to you. So you can actually just drag above Teams Champions, and you can change the order. This is another really simple tip to be able for you to manage sort of the priority of the team that you're a member of. So you can always move it around, you can do whatever you want. That's another great way to be able to manage the list of your teams. Okay, now we're going to go into the champions team. And actually, we're going to do one that you're an owner of, sorry. Back to one that you're an owner of. So under each team, there are channels. So every team comes with a general channel. You can use general for your normal announcements, normal announcements, chatter, whatever you want to use general for. Most teams choose to create different channels for different topics or work streams. It could be project-based. In classes, it could be module-based. For research initiatives, it might be there's a grant channel for grant funding, there's a milestone tracker, there's a publications tracker. You can decide how you want to manage your channels and design them. So how to add a channel. So if you go to the ellipsis and you click on Add Channel, let's say you want to do a playground channel. Call it Playground. You can put a description if you want and press Add. It's whipping it up, creating a channel. Boom, you have a new channel. From here, you can decide, maybe you want to add some tabs. Maybe you want to mention people to say, hey, I added this channel, let's collaborate here. But the really cool thing is that, let's say that Playground is this project that's due in a month. And then the project wraps up. And then there's a new project. You could create a new channel for that new project. Or if you want to save the channel for some reason or keep using it, you can just rename the channel. So if you go up here to the ellipsis and click on Edit this channel, let's change it. Let's call it March Project. So the channel rename is a nice feature, especially if you want to keep all of the history of what was happening on that project, but maybe the name changes and you want to keep the structure and the history. So everything's maintained, the name just changes. So we use this a lot in the product group when we have a channel for each feature area. So sometimes the feature area name changes or the team name changes. And so we just we keep everything. We want to keep the history for the files feed, for the files channel for some reason. We change it to files and messaging, for instance. So it's a great way to be able to maintain the structure of the channel, all the different conversations without having to delete that. You can also delete a channel if you want, but I definitely recommend the rename channel feature. Okay, so we're going to do the most basic piece, which is writing a post. So if you want to do this in Playground.
Should we do it in Team Champions Playground?
Yeah. Okay, so very basic. You all did it on your phones already, but you can write a post. And you can use the rich text editor. So you could send a quick message like that. Not responsible for what's posted here. If you make a typo, you can see that it goes red underline, you can fix it. But you can also use our rich text editor. So if you click on that, you can add a subject. So definitely recommend adding a subject line if this is a chat that you think is going to be a long discussion, so that everyone knows what you're talking about when you have that conversation. You can also liken this to, if you're doing more formal announcement posts, you could liken this to an email. I don't want to make that comparison, but if you think about it in terms of the construct, you always want to have a subject line of your email and you have the body. You don't always have to do a subject, but it's a best practice that works pretty well if you're going to get into a lively discussion. Go teams, awesome. And so in the rich text editor, you can bold, you can highlight, you can do lists, you can cut and paste a table, you can cut and paste pictures. you can @mention. So @mentioning is a really important feature of Teams, and I would say this is the single biggest tip I can give you in terms of cultural transformation from going off of email and going to Teams. In email, you can @mention people over email. It's a similar concept where I get a notification when I'm @mentioned that's an @ symbol versus just it goes bold. And so if you're @mentioning in a channel, think about who needs to be mentioned. Think about who you want to get notified, and think about who you expect a response from. So when you @mention a channel, everyone in that channel gets notified. So think about if there are 300 people on your team, do all 300 people really need to be notified? For an important announcement, sure, yes. Definitely. But if it's more of an FYI and you just want to notify 3 or 4 people that you posted this, I would @mention the individual's name. So here, if you can @mention a channel, or you can @mention a team. So if you @mention Playground, for instance, everyone is going to receive a notification that's in the Champions team and following Playground. So if you press Enter, so now Linda's going to get a personal notification that she has been mentioned, and the Playground, everyone who's in the Playground team or Playground channel is going to get this notification as well. So in a world of attention-based economy that we live in, where you're always looking at your phone or email or your computer, the @mentioned, use it wisely, but it's the single biggest cultural transformation that you can make on your team. With the expectation, if I post something on Teams and I don't @mention anyone, and I don't @mention the channel, I don't expect everyone to read it. I expect only interested people that are looking at the channel on a regular basis to read this message. If I @mention the channel name, I expect everyone to read that message. And if I @mention specific people, I expect them to read that message, and maybe there's an action item for them in that message, and I expect a response. So I would think about your @mentioning a person as I'm putting them on the to line of an email. I know that's not secret anymore, and nobody actually abides by that to versus CC. But in a perfect world where people still abided by that, the @mention of a person would be they're on the to line, they need to read this email, they need to make a response. Okay, final comment on the rich text editor. You go back to that. There is an exclamation point at the end. So if you press that, that marks it as important. So if you can @mention Playground and say something important, this shows up as a different type of notification. So this is the equivalent of a red bang urgent email. So I would use this for urgent announcements or something that requires immediate attention. And so all of you who are on the Champions team should now see notification in Playground with a red exclamation point next to it. And this shows you that there's a more urgent notification than the other notifications. So again, use this one wisely when you're using this and @mentioning a channel. This is like the most urgent mail, like we need to evacuate, urgent message, evacuate the building. Or the servers are down, someone help me. Definitely use that sparingly. Okay, quick time check. We're doing good. All right, now we're going to talk about files and tabs. So in each team, within each channel, there's conversations at the top, there's something called files, and there's a plus sign. So if you click on files.
I clicked plus, sorry.
That's okay.
My bad.
So you click on files, you'll see here that you can share files. So you can add a new file, you can upload a file, you can add folders. This should look very familiar. This is your basic file management area, and the back end of this is SharePoint. So every time you post a file to your team, it's posting it to your SharePoint site. So you don't have to create another SharePoint, you don't have to do anything in SharePoint, you never even need to open SharePoint if you don't want to. But think of Teams as your file store built on top of SharePoint. And in terms of file permissions, when you upload a file, everyone on the team has access. So you don't have to worry about sharing the file and figuring out who has access to this. It all happens automatically using Teams. So if you have a random file, maybe you can upload.
Well, I have some random files here.
I would love
Okay.
you to upload a random file. And you can always delete it afterwards. Maybe a Word document or a PowerPoint or an Excel.
Go with Excel.
Okay, so as you can see, it's uploading one file. The file is going to upload, and you can see that it'll show up once the file is uploaded. It may take a little while depending on how big it is. So we can see that it is a keep exceed, and if you go to the triple dot ellipsis there, you can see a bunch of options. So you can edit it in Teams. So within Teams, you have a rich, full co-collaboration, collaborative experience right within Teams. You can also open it in Excel online. You can open it in Excel if it's a heavy Excel document and you want to do some cool pivot tables. You can do that there. You can open it in SharePoint if you want. But my favorite feature is make this a tab. So let's say this is a really, really, really important document that Drew expects his team to collaborate on a regular basis. You click Make as a tab. And this gets promoted to a tab. So this is something that we want people to look at on a regular basis. And so you can see here I've got my keep exceed, and I can have a conversation around this file or this object. So if you click on the little messaging icon up in the right, just above there, that one. Yeah, click there, and start conversation. At mention playground, and say, playground, take a look at this file. Let me know if you have any feedback. Or whatever you want to say. So everyone's going to be notified that this file is here. Okay, so then if you go back to your conversations here,
Okay.
you can see that this has been started as a thread. So we can now have a threaded conversation in context of this file. And other people might respond to you, copy the file. So another best practice, I would say, is reply in line to a conversation. Don't create a new conversation. So if you think about this as threaded topics, I would want Chris to actually hit reply here instead of starting a new thread, unless he meant to start a new thread. Want to make sure that everyone's following the conversation and making it easier to keep up to speed. The other feature that I would show Chris Tyler this, is the ability to edit and delete a post. So let's say you want to edit your post.
There's a weird bug though with Teams where it drops the reply line behind the start conversation line.
Yes.
So sometimes people mean to reply, but, and then you end up.
Yeah, so let's say that you run into that and we're working to address that. Let's say, oh, I didn't actually mean to start this new thread. You can edit and delete. So if you click on the ellipsis, you can delete. And if you click on something you've written yourself, you can press edit. So the edit capability is an interesting one. And I would also say this is part of the cultural change that comes with Teams, is as an admin, you can decide whether or not you want people to be able to edit their posts. So you can it's revisionist history to some extent. I can make a post and then edit it later on, and it works really well for typos, like, oh, I spelled computer wrong, that's bad. But what if it's a number and then I change the number after the fact? So I would say use it lightly. We definitely don't want people to use it in a malicious manner, but I don't expect you to run into this, but know that if you choose to let people edit their messages, they can. So this is awesome. So as you can see, we've had a full conversation. We're collaborating around the document. If you click on the document again, or just click on the Excel document, in the conversation, it'll open it with the conversation panel next to it. So I can be looking at the document and giving specific feedback, be like, row 61 is wrong, please change it. And that mentioned John, who made the mistake, or something. Not that John would ever make mistakes. So this is a really easy way, so you don't have to be switching context. So having the conversation within context and not having to open up the Excel doc or put it on another monitor, you can do it all in one space. So we're having fun. This is great. So next we're going to add a different kind of tab. So if you go back to your conversations, so click there, and then click on the plus button. So this plus button is a portal into another world for you. Like all of the stuff that we've showed you so far on Teams is basic communication. You can share files, you can have conversations, you can mention people. Tabs are awesome and a really critical part of, I would say, Teams power usage. So as the owner of your Teams, you can decide which tabs you want to add, and you can have members add tabs as well if you want them to have that privilege. So we have a bunch of Microsoft tabs that are first party. So you can add PowerPoint, you can add a SharePoint, you could add Stream if you use Stream. There are a bunch of third-party tabs that you can add in as apps. If any of you use Trello for task management, you can add the Trello tab. That's the example that we're going to use. So if you go and add Trello, so you press install, and then it's going to ask you to log in. Do you have a Trello account?
I do not.
Okay, we can create one. So you log in with Google, or create one.
Just create a Trello account. Yes.
Okay, so maybe something to switch.
More email.
Awesome. So you're going to create a welcome board. And you're going to post to the channel about this tab because you want everyone to see that you've created this board, and press save. And you can disconnect those afterwards. All right, so here I can see my board of stuff. So you can use Trello for task tracking, being able to move tasks in different categories, assign tasks, and
Close the conversation on the right, just so you can see the full board, and then
Yeah.
try dragging and drop or dragging the task around. There we go. Up. So you can create your columns there, conditional lock.
you can use this to manage your own tasks, your team tasks. So this is one example of maybe your team is using Trello to do project management, and so you can create this in the channel for your entire team. Some cool stuff. All right, if you go back to conversations, we're going to add one more tab, so press plus. The other example I'll give you is website. So if you click on website, you can add any website as a tab. You can add Bing.com as a tab. You can add ASU.edu as a tab. Maybe you have an internal site that you use for your own team. You can use anything as a tab. Definitely recommend using this feature. The idea is that you can configure your team in a way that this is your canvas to be productive. And so you don't necessarily need to open up a browser. If there's a website that you go to on a regular basis, add it as a tab. Let's say you keep forgetting your password. And so you want to be able to change your password. You can pin that as a tab if you want. Awesome. Okay. Next, you can rearrange the order of tabs. This may seem like a small thing, but if you are heavy tabs users, like I know we are, sometimes some tabs are less important and you want them to be further down, or if they're more important, you want them to be further up. So you can just drag them around. Drag them around like Drew is doing. Awesome. You can also delete tabs. So let's say this keep exceed file is done, the project's over. I can delete it. So remove, trash can, and press remove. And the tab is removed. This doesn't mean that you've lost the conversation history. It doesn't mean you've deleted the file. The file is still in the file section. The conversation is still intact. How we use files as tabs. One example is when we're doing trip planning. So we cover a bunch of markets and we have to meet with a bunch of customers at once. So right now I'm planning a trip to Australia. And so I've pinned a OneNote with the schedule called Australia Trip Planning. After that Australia trip, I'm going to delete that tab. The whole history of the trip and all the different planning pieces that went into it are still intact in the conversations, but I don't need to have that tab anymore. Okay, so now if you go back to conversations, we're going to play around more with the channel space. So one common, I would say, email culture thing is maybe this is passive aggressive, but maybe you guys use it, is referencing an old email. So please see the attached email from 6 months ago when I said this thing. You can do something similar if you'd like with Teams. So let's say that someone asks a question, be like, oh, we already answered this on this other channel, or oh, we already decided this last week, click here. So you can do that with a message. So let's say if you click on the ellipsis here, and you, click on something that you've written.
That I read or wrote?
Either, or that you wrote.
That I wrote.
That one, go Teams. Or that one, yeah. So, oh, have we restricted share link? Go, sorry, go to one that you're an owner of. And click on one that you've written. That one.
Restricted.
Okay, so let's check out those admin settings, Josh.
What are you trying to do? Because I have the same options he has.
So in the admin portal, you may have restricted who can copy a link to this channel or copy a link to this message. We'll take that one off.
You can't email channels.
Oh, okay, so I will skip that section.
You can get a link to the channel.
Yeah, okay. So I'll follow up on you should be able to send a link to a message, but you can also send a link to a channel. So let's say you say, hey, Drew wants to send it to his teammates, say make sure you're checking out what's going on this channel. So you click get link to channel and press copy, and then you can share that somewhere. And everyone can then click on that channel and they're taken to that channel. Send email to channel. I will touch on quickly. We'll work on figuring out if we're going to enable this one. Send email to channel is a great way to be able to take a conversation off of email and move it into Teams. So you can actually get an email address for individual Teams channel, and you can forward an email, and then let's say that it was an email sent to 3 people, but the whole team should really see it. You could either attach that message as a file on Teams, or you can forward it to your team and then mention people and continue the conversation over email. Okay, 4 more things. Next is search. So at the top of your Teams, you see this little bar. We call it the command bar. You can do a whole lot of fancy stuff in this command bar. I'm not going to go super deep into that, but you can do a quick slash. You can see the list of all the commands you can do, but we're not going to show that today. For real power users, this starts to become great. You can toggle your presence. You can look at your mentions. In this case, I'm going to have you delete that line. And let's search for playground. Just type in the word playground and then press enter. Okay, so when I search for the word playground, it's going to look at all of my messages. It's going to look for people named playground. It's going to look for files that include the name playground. This is a really quick way to find, oh, I know that Drew posted this file somewhere, but I don't remember what channel or what team he posted it in. Or, oh, Linda said this thing to me last week, but I need to find, I don't know exactly the number she shared with me, so let me go find it. I can search for Linda. It's a fast way. It's akin to searching your email. Being able to quickly search to find the right information that you're looking for. Next, we will go to Files. So if you click on the left, you have a bunch of these different apps. We call this the Files app. So this, for me, has been a big game changer for using Teams versus having to figure out where all my files are or files that people have shared with me. So I can see recent. So I can see my files that I've recently looked at or used. If you click on Microsoft Teams, these are all of the files that have been shared on all of the teams that I'm a member of. So I use this space to look at, we post all of our LT summaries for product reviews. I can see which ones have happened the latest by just clicking on this and seeing the activity there. If I'm waiting for Drew to edit his Keep Exceed tracker, I also know I can go here and it's going to pop to the top when he edits that. There's also downloads. So you may decide to steal Drew's Excel document because you love the format. If you click download from a team or from a file, it'll show up in this download section. You can also see your cloud storage. So looks like Drew uses OneDrive and Dropbox. So if you want to add your Dropbox, you want to add your OneDrive, you want to add Google Drive, you can do that all there. And this is what we call your me space, your file space. These are my files aggregated from whatever provider I use. Got a question?
And so the storage is basically limited to the hard drive or your computer or the storage location of service?
These are connected to your cloud service. So if you use Dropbox, you click on your OneDrive, or you don't have to click on files. But you can see what's stored in your Dropbox here. And so you just log in with your Dropbox account. So the files area is a really great way to be able to quickly see all the different files that you might interact with. Let's go back to the team. You go to the playground team. And let's say you want to bookmark a post. Oh, sorry.
One more question about, this is not a duplication. This is not storing it locally, it's just accessing.
No, it's just accessing it. It's just pulling it in. It's just aggregating it. So if you go to playground, let's say that I wrote a honker of a post. It was like an essay. And I took a quick glance at it before I went to bed, and it was just too long. And I'm like, I know I need to read this later, but I don't want to forget about it. There's two things you can do. One is mark it as unread. So if you click there, you can click mark as unread. So it'll go back to bold, and it'll remind you basically like, oh, this is bold, let me click on it and read it again. Or, my favorite is you can save it. So there's a little bookmark next to the ellipsis. If you click that, it's now saved. And so this now goes up to, if you click on your face and you go to saved, this goes into what we call your bookmarks, your clippings. And so this is a great way to manage items that you want to save for later that maybe you don't want to read them now, or tasks. So if you have action items associated with them, you can save them and then go to your saved area and use it as your task list. So a lot of people use it in different ways, but it's one that I find particularly helpful, especially when you're on a bunch of teams where you have people mentioning you and you have action items to do. So a bit about files in general. So just to go back there, you've got your saved items, which are just bookmarks. You've got your me files, which shows my files, and those are saved to the cloud provider that I choose, like OneDrive, for instance, or Dropbox. If I go to my team, the files that are stored there are on SharePoint. So you never have to worry about your own desktop files being shared with the team. People can access your personal files, no way. Only the files that you share can be accessed from your team, and any of the files that you share over chat, we'll get to chat next, will be saved in your own personal file store as well. So OneDrive, for instance, if you choose that.
There's a question from someone online. I just linked to Dropbox, got a choice, home or ASU. After I pick one, I no longer have option to add Dropbox again. How do I add the other?
Let me follow up on that. You don't have
Personal and ASU, most of us have both kinds of
Can you pick
Dropbox.
both?
Huh?
And so you can only choose one.
That's what.
Okay, we'll follow up on that. All right, we're almost there. We're almost to the fun part.
Switch to OneDrive is what they'll say.
Yeah, switch to OneDrive. Yes, thank you. Okay, so let's go to chat. So if you click on chat, so chat is interesting to think about because it's async. So you don't have to, there's not an expectation in Teams that you're chatting 100% of the time and both people are there, like AOL Instant Messenger before it was killed. Rest in peace, AOL IM. You can have an asynchronous conversation, but it's persistent, so it's always there. And with Teams, the expectation is you chat someone, and you don't necessarily need to expect an immediate response. So here I sent Drew the list of all the things we're going to go through so you could mentally prepare. I don't expect him to respond immediately. He could respond tomorrow and be like, hey, thanks for sending me that list, and have a question. But chat is basic. It's one-on-one chat. Again, you have that rich text editor like you do within channels, like posts you want to do. You can start a new chat. So let's say you want to start a chat with someone, with Melissa. Awesome. So say something fun to her, send her a GIF, whatever you want. Cool. And so here, you guys can chat. And let's say that you're having a conversation and you're like, oh, actually, we really need Sarah for this conversation. So Drew's going to add me. So I'm going to search for SA Feller, press add, and we can then continue the conversation with me in that conversation. We can also share files. So if you want to share a file with all of us, you can do that here. We use this for, I would say, side collaboration on Teams. So if there's a file I want to send to Michael, for instance, for us to collaborate on before we post it somewhere else, we can do that here. And the other cool thing is if you go back to the one with the three of us,
Yeah.
or just add me back to that one.
I think I have to add you back again.
Question. When you do that, when you add somebody to an existing chat, does it bring over the chat history so the new person can see it?
It actually asks you now.
Actually, can you try to not have a guest?
Try to not have a guess.
Yeah, so do just Melissa and Josh.
Skype.
Yeah, so add Josh, press add. So the add history isn't working. So
Yeah, well, you don't have a history.
it should. So we'll follow on that, but just if you go to just add Josh and don't press OK, or you can add him and say OK, that's fine. I'm going to show how to change the name.
So
Press add.
add here.
And then go. I think we've restricted members.
And then type something.
No, you'll be able to change it.
Yeah, okay, here you can see there's a little edit. Click that. You can name the group chat. Let's call it Budget Collaboration.
And then, so the reason why the add history show up is because there's never a message between those two people.
Right.
Yeah,
so add a third
okay.
person now.
Got
Add
it.
a third person right now. in this
Okay,
chat.
so
Because if I
Can you
even
say
if I
that
click
again
it,
so we
it
can
shows
all
up.
hear that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, so the reason why the add history for the chat didn't show up is because there was never a discussion between these two people, right? So there's no history to share, right? So now there is some history right now. If we're adding a third person, you notice how now you have a selection saying, this new person I'm adding to this group, do I want to share my previous history discussions or not, right?
Where did that pop-up come from? I was looking at you.
So let's show again how the pop-up showed up.
It's adding somebody.
Yeah,
It will
click
pop
that.
up. It won't let you add them until you make
See, it shows up automatically now.
And you can choose what history you share. So this is a great tool. We talk a lot about tribal knowledge on Teams. And so on email, like not everyone's on email. Maybe you have a new person join your organization, you want them to ramp up. This is a great way, in addition to adding them to Teams where they can see out the history of all the different conversation threads and all the files. Group chats are a great way to transfer that tribal knowledge so people feel included and up to date. So within this group chat, we can now do video calling. So let's say we're all feverishly typing and we're having an argument. Drew can say, hey, you know what, let's talk about this live. So you can hit the video button, we can have a video chat. This would notify me on all of my devices that I have Teams on, so if I'm on the road and I don't have the machine in front of me, I can pick it up on my phone. This is a way to be able to collaborate quickly and seamlessly. If I'm at home in pajamas, I can just do a call. I don't have to do a video call. So there's that option there. Okay, so how's everyone feeling? Quick thumbs up. Okay. I'm going to go into two more of the more advanced features before we do a fun activity. Thumbs up. Awesome. So I want to talk a bit about Teams apps. So if you click on the store, so we showed you a few apps like the Trello tab, for instance. You've got the Teams store, which you have a ton of different first-party and third-party tools available to you. There are different types of Teams apps. There are bots, which are a conversational interface you can talk to. We'll show you an example of that. There are tabs, which we already showed you. There are connectors, and there's messaging. So if we go to bots, we're going to pick a bot. So we're going to pick Polly, your favorite. So if you go, you can search for Polly, so you know you're looking for it. Click on Polly, and let's add it to a team. So if you can add it to our Champions team, and
It's already.
Oh, it's already installed, so add it to a team you haven't already. All right, and press install. So you can choose if you want a bot or a tab. Let's choose the bot. Let's set up the bot. And testing channel, unless you want to use general. And press setup. So now you've got your Poly bot. And you can mention Poly. And
There, it's default. It's got a mention Poly there for me.
okay, and then you can say you want to start a poll. So ask people when they want to have the next performance review meeting. And it could be you put your options in there, and Poly, any of the like Poly, SurveyMonkey, anything that's conversational, you may need to get what fields you're going to add, but Poly will respond and say, hey, I didn't quite get that. Can you send it in this format? Poly should respond, and so here Poly has posted a poll. Everyone should be able to see it on the team, and people can pick when they want the meeting to be. So this is a really quick way to kind of build consensus without having to say, like, type when will the meeting be, and people can vote anonymously if you want to have that setting. The next example, so that was an example of a bot. The next is a compose extension. So if you go back, or we don't need to show this one. If you just go to your team, you can do this in the play. Actually, do it where you're an owner, sorry. Any of these. Maybe offbeat. This will be offbeat. So you click on the little ellipsis next to that video camera, that one. You have a bunch of options for different compose extensions. So let's use weather. Actually, let's use places instead, or stock. We'll do stock. So let's say I want to share, oh wow, look at that Microsoft stock. Look at what's happening. So I can choose what team it's going into. Sure. And press install. And I can set up messaging. And then if I click that again, the little ellipsis, I can click on stocks, and let's do Microsoft, and I can click on it. Oh, look, the stock is up. Great. And I can send it, and everyone can then learn more about what's happening with the stock. So that's a really quick way you can do places, you can do stocks, you can do weather, you can do a bunch of other stuff. But just a quick way to share information. So with that, we're at the top of the hour, which means we'll move on to our next session. I will say thank you so much to Drew for being our fearless driver and demoer today. Thank you. You did a great job. Yeah, I will plug in now. Good stuff. All right. As I plug in, and we're going to restart the video feed again, focus on the phone, or the not video feed, just the feed of this monitor. We are going to do a fun activity. Okay, so now that you've spent, I think it was about 40 minutes watching Drew drive and hopefully following along in your own teams, we're going to put your skills to the test. So we're going to do a bit of a scavenger hunt. So if you guys can split up into maybe clusters of 3 or 4 people, making sure you have at least one person with a laptop. I'm going to have you guys split into clusters, and you guys have 10-ish minutes to accomplish the following 5 tasks in teams. So there are 5 things you can do here. Some of them you can accomplish using, actually, all of them you can accomplish with what we showed you today already. There are slow ways to do it, and there are fast ways to do it. At the end of this, I'll quickly show you how we would have done it from the fast perspective. But the idea here is that there's many paths to success with teams, and there's many different styles and ways you can accomplish the same task. So these are ordered from easiest to hardest. And so I asked you, post your results to the Playground channel. Either you can do it within the Playground channel, or you can take a screenshot of what you've done and share it to the Playground channel. So at 12:15, we will resume and see how successful you guys were. So split up into groups, Or if you want to do it by yourself, you can also do that if you're a single contributor. But we'll all walk around the room and make sure that you guys are able to do some of this. Again, you can do it in your own teams, you can do it in the Champions team. About 2 more minutes, and then let's stop for now. We'll turn the recording back on also. Folks on the phone, I think, can still hear us. So, raise your hand if you got through one of them as a team. Okay, how about 2 of them? Okay, how about 3? Just keep your hands up as I get 4 of them. Okay, how about all of them? Did anyone get all of them? Okay, nobody got all of them. So that's great. So some of these are definitely simple and some of them are more advanced, and you can certainly accomplish all of them, I would say, more manually, and then there are ways to automate a lot of these. So I'll pull up our champions team to show everyone what people did. So, trying to find my mouse. If I go to the playground channel, I can see that some people did a few things. So Drew added the weather. So that was number 3. Share the weather for golf tomorrow. So that's how I would share the weather using the weather option here. So I can add the weather. I can't install it because I am a guest, but Drew was able to do that. And I see some people chose to create their own channels. So this is a great example. I bet it was for number 1 or number 2. So it looks like Grant chose to create a channel for the scavenger hunt project and created a presentation, and then the team could collaborate around that presentation. So that's pretty cool. There are some other ways to do the group collaboration, especially around a file. So typically we would recommend having a conversation in context when you promote it as a tab, like we showed you earlier. Or you could use a tool, awesome, kudos. You could use a tool like Trello to assign tasks if you're doing a group project together. One quick feature I forgot to call out is the like button. I think this is probably intuitive to everyone that uses Facebook, but liking in Teams is a way to say acknowledge. So yes, I've read this message, or yes, I like this is great, kudos. But we use it internally as an acknowledge. So if I like a message, it's like, yep, I read it. I don't need to respond okay or yes. Just press thumbs up and I've read the message, and I know that Michael, for instance, knows that I was rude with him, or I'm going to go do something. So some other examples. We've got Team Wombat here. All right. So Team Wombat has done the presentation and edited it. They've shared a tab with a link to weather. So that's one way. This is the automated way to do weather. And this one, they've pinned the UTO homepage, I imagine, as a way to stay up with Arizona State University news. So let me show you how I would do the news, number 5, so the news via social media. So I'm going to switch over to my test tenant because I've got admin privileges here. And I am going to add a feed. So I'm going to do this in the School of Business, and I'm going to do it in general, and I'm going to go to connectors. And so connectors are another type of app that you can use that you can think about it as an automated way to accomplish certain tasks. So let's say I want to stay up to date with ASU University news. So I could do this using the Twitter function or Bing News. I'm going to use Bing News for this. And so I can set search terms. So I'm going to call this the ASU News Digest. And I'm going to select the topic. I'm going to say ASU. And let's say, see if that works. And I want to get a digest every morning at 8 a.m. to see all of the news on the internet about ASU. So the other thing I could do is add Twitter. So let's say I want to get notified every single time Twitter or ASU Twitter is mentioned, for instance.
ASU outages.
ASU outages. And I also want ASU UTO, the hashtag to follow, and I want to include mentions. And I don't want to get a digest, I want to get individual messages as tweets arrive. So I'm going to save, and it's configuring. Okay, so now I expect that as new tweets arrive into the School of Business Journal channel, as they show up, they're going to show up here. And so you only have to do this once, and this is a way to track news topics you care about. So let's say this is a research team, and you are doing quantum computing research. You can get notified every morning of all the news about quantum computing. You can put your name in there. Let's say that you're a famous researcher or a professor. You can put your name in there and get a report every morning as well. And Twitter, if you, let's say one of you manages the ASU Outages Twitter handle, this is a great way to manage, get notified when you have replies. And finally, gather the team's opinion in an efficient way. I would recommend Poly. So I think we saw a few examples of folks using Poly to conduct a poll. And we had demoed that before. So it looks like Jacob has done this as well, so that's pretty cool. Okay. Find my mouse. All right. So moving on. So for the remaining, we're going to call it 25, 30 minutes. So we're going to leave a little bit of time for Q&A and wrap up at the end. We're going to split out into what we're calling an adoption workshop. So we wanted, since all of you are champions, and the expectation is you will go out and train your teams and your departments and your schools on teams and all the stuff that we showed you today. We'd like you to split out, how many people, do the head count of how many people we have in the room? 27? So let's split out into groups of 6-ish, maybe 7. And we want to, if you came with colleagues, I request you split away from them. We'd love to have a conversation, so we're all the Microsoft people are going to split up and talk to each group as a workshop model. We want to talk about adoption of teams. So it's one thing to show you how to do everything in teams, like we showed you today and Drew so kindly demoed for us. It's another thing to be conscious of and purposeful about the way that you are going to drive adoption of this tool within your own work group, your team, your school, your department. Teams is a cultural transformation. It really does change the way people work. We believe it's going to change the way people work for the better. More transparency, making sure that you're capturing tribal knowledge and being more transparent and sharing with the team, collaborating faster, collaborating in a single space. We really do believe it changes the way teams work. I know it's changed the way I personally work. I know it changed the way our team operates as a product group as a whole. But we want to make sure that you are able to think about maybe some of the challenges, maybe you have concerns yourself of how this tool may be perceived or used or adopted within your own group. And we want to talk about how you plan to drive adoption. So love for you guys to split out into groups of 6 or 7. If you just want to do clusters like you did before, just make sure if you're with your colleagues, separate from them. So we'll give you guys 2 minutes to do that, and then each of us will split up, and we've got some thought starters for the conversation. All right, everyone. Are we back to recording? We're good? All right. So we have, so I know my group, I had some great conversations around adoption strategies and thinking about pilots versus broad-scale adoption and training. Hope that you guys all had some equally great conversations. So we've got about 15 minutes left in our session. Wanted to close and talk about what's next, resources, and then the remaining time we'll leave for Q&A. I haven't seen anyone post any questions on the feedback channel in ASU Teams Champion, so if you do have questions that you want answered, please post those now, and we'll go through those. And then after the session, please use that as your primary place to ask questions, and we'll help out and be able to answer questions there. So what's next? So coming out of this training, which has been recorded by my friend back there, Train your team. So we definitely expect you as champions and you as the leaders in your individual work groups or schools or departments to take the training that you've watched today, put your own twist on it, but you can leverage all of the materials that you've seen today and host a series of sessions within your department or school or area that you support. So that might be if you're doing a series of 5 pilots in your area, train the people that are part of that pilot before maybe training the entire department. You can figure out how do you want to roll out that training. Maybe you do a recorded session that's specific to your own school or areas you support. But definitely we ask, train your team. This was train the trainer. So you are all, when you walk out that door, you all graduate as team trainers. Share your successes. So on the pilot channel in our champions team, share your successes about what's working. Like, oh, I had this big win with teams. We were able to finish this project. It would have taken us a month. It took us 2 weeks because we moved way faster on teams collaborating. Share those successes. And also ask questions and provide feedback. 100% of everything will not go right. You will find that, oh, this isn't working properly, or, oh, this feature, I really wish we had this feature, or maybe it exists but I can't find it. So ask questions and provide product feedback in that feedback channel. If you do have a question or a tech support question, so myself and the UTO project team, we're all part of that team. I'm going to get the local folks added as well. @mention me if you want an answer from me. Going back to that @mentioning culture, I'm only notified if I'm @mentioned. And so please do @mention me. I'm @SAFeller on our team if you want a specific question answered by me. So in terms of the resources that are available, so everything that you've seen today, I will be posting on the resources channel. As soon as we have the video done, I'm going to take some time to edit that down into chunks. And so you'd be able to take, let's say, the basics where Drew is driving. You can just take that video and you can share that with people. One best practice to recommend is in each of the teams that you create, maybe you have a resources channel or getting started with teams channel and share these resources and best practices. So training materials from today. In the resources channel already on ASU Teams Champions, there's a bunch of different resources for you. Definitely take a look at that. Oh, I skipped ahead to the good part. Sorry, guys. My mouse is going everywhere. So take a look at the resources channel. This will be the primary source of resources that I will share with you guys on a regular basis. So as new resources or materials become available from Microsoft about Teams, I will share those with you. Case studies from other universities, how other people are using Teams. I'll also use this channel to share with you. And email templates. So we have a bunch of pre-made email templates about Teams, about getting started with Teams. There are a bunch of different flavors that you can customize with your logo. It could be the ASU logo. It could be, if you support Dopey Carey, for instance, or Barrett, it could be their logo. And you can change the copy so the message works for the specific group that you're trying to message to about Teams. So lots of resources for you. It's probably overwhelming and there's too many, but I would rather give you as much as you can do and take and then go out as you're planning your own rollout of Teams. So I skipped ahead, and so I ruined my punchline, but we are trying something different with ASU and you guys. And I'm hoping it's one that's exciting. I think it's exciting. I get excited by this. So we are running an ASU Teams Champions contest. And no, you're not going to get like team swag. We can do that. We'll look into that too. But I think the most meaningful endorsement of your own work as champions and Teams as a transformative platform for ASU would be to reward the most active team, and I'm going to work with the UTO project team on how we define most active team or successful team. But the most active team will be featured in a Microsoft plus ASU video case study. So myself and one of my colleagues in marketing, we have a customer evidence team. And so we do all of these formal case studies, whether it's a blog post or a video. I'll share an example of our latest case study that we've done, where we feature teams transforming the way people work, whether it's an enterprise customer or a professor at a university using Teams as his primary teaching tool. We want to feature you as a case study. So we definitely want to feature ASU all up as a case study for this Champions program. This is the biggest Champions program when it comes to the reach. So ASU is such a big school, and the fact that each of you represent a different area of the university, and then you're going to go off and train everyone in the different areas of the university. This is our goal for other universities, and we want ASU to be the leader when it comes to this model. And so we want to feature ASU all up, but we want to be able to feature whoever it drives the most usage, most active team, best use case, and we'll work on defining what that looks like. And we'll share out those details in the pilots channel when we announce the program. We want to feature you, so we'll come down here, we'll have a video crew, it'll be Microsoft plus ASU, we'll film it at Palmwalk or wherever you want. This is something that you personally can share on LinkedIn, that you are an innovator when it comes to technology in your specific area. It's great news for Microsoft, it's great news for ASU, so I think it's a win-win-win in general. So hopefully that's motivation enough to dive into teams, make sure your team is successful. It doesn't have to be a super sexy example either. It could be your marketing group is using Teams to collaborate on announcements and it's working really well and you've saved thousands of dollars in marketing costs because you're able to work more efficiently. It could be like that. It could be we're curing cancer at ASU and here's how we're using Teams. It could be any of those things or all of those things. So as soon as I think Melissa and I will lock down the details of what this looks like and get legal approval from all of the lawyers, because we have to do that. We'll share out those details, and hopefully that's a good motivation to get out there, start using Teams, see what works for your specific team, and hopefully share some success stories. We'll also ask you to share your success stories in the pilots channel. So things that are working, you're saying, hey, I'm having slam dunk in Barrett or slam dunk in this research project. Share those stories so that your fellow champions community can also benefit from those best practices. So with that, we've got about 10 minutes left. I see a few questions on feedback, so I will take those questions first, and if we have folks on the line that have asked any questions or anyone in the room, we can answer some questions. So first question. Oh, we have lots of questions. So can developers create internal add-ins or do they have to be published to the store? Yes.
So today, you do have to publish to the store. Now, if your add-in still has authentication for you need an ASU account, then obviously you can still have that. But we are working on ways to be able to for developers to publish apps, for example, if it's just an ASU app and it shows up for ASU students and faculty and so forth. But it's not quite ready yet, but that is something we're working on.
And a few people in my group are interested in developing line of business applications. If you are interested, reach out to me and we'll get you set up with all the resources that we have. If you have any specific questions, we can help answer those. Does my Outlook calendar integrate with Teams? I see my meeting section on the left side, but does it show people that I'm busy or what meeting I'm in? So you can see your Outlook calendar, yes. Michael asked this question. Free busy comes through from Outlook. So if I'm scheduling a meeting within Teams, we honor that free busy. So if you add 3 people and you want to see when they're free, we take that information from Exchange. It doesn't show people what meeting you're in unless you share that information. So if your calendar is public, then they'll be able to see that. How will class roster-based teams work for classroom use? So Sean asked that. Sean with us. Sean Hoosman. Can I ask Sean to clarify what he means by class roster-based teams just on that thread, and I'll come back to that question. Michael asked, is there any way you can see who's typing in the team section? I noticed it's only when you're chatting, not in the team section. Yes.
For now, yes.
Yes. If you can point us towards information.
I'm sorry.
And that's correct. Today, that only kind of you see that little pop-up when someone's typing. Okay. So the challenge of doing that in the channel is imagining a team of 100 people and everyone's, at some point there's some activity happening everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of need to think through this design of this, but if we just brought that exact same feature to channel, then you just constantly have some bunch of faces popped up saying that someone's typing something, right? Right. So we don't know if that's probably the best experience you want to surface, so that's something we need to think through. But the current experience is intentional.
Right.
Yeah.
So next question, could you point us towards information on making our own channels, bots, and apps? That would be very helpful. Thanks. Yes, in the resources section, I'll share at our developer site and all of the details there. I think Sean answered his own question. The next one, yes, all the questions are coming. Facebook permissions for channel. What can you?
Yeah, we've got a couple groups here at ASU. Barry Honors College has a Facebook that they keep upgrading, and I saw that there was a Facebook page apps permission available in the store, and I was wondering if they added that and they could see that Facebook, if that would allow them to post to it and maintain it from inside the team's clients. And if it was only the person who had added it who had permission to the Facebook, or if it gave everyone extra permissions.
Let me follow up on that.
So this is the connector piece that you noticed at the Facebook? Yeah. So in general, the way permissioning works for apps, if you add a tab and you have to authenticate to, show that Trello tab, right? If everyone can see that the app's been added, but before I get access to the user the first time, I need to authenticate as well, right?
Okay.
So even though you're sharing with the team, there's authentication, everyone's going to authenticate with their accounts, right?
Okay.
For connectors, I don't know exactly what the Facebook connector or the functionality of that one is. For example, let's use the Twitter one that we showed you an example of, right? So Sarah configured that connect with her account and then said, hey, everyone knows his hashtag, send a notification, right? Everyone will be able to see that now in the channel, right? Because once that notification is sent, I don't know exactly if Facebook does the notification thing, so the notification sends the same thing if it's something else, and it really depends, right?
Okay. Can I restrict channels to only be accessible by certain team members? Great question. Today, not yet. So we're working on a feature that we've publicly talked about called private channels. So this is the ability to invite a subset of people on the team into that channel. We believe this will work amazing for smaller project group work, maybe your manager's channel where you don't want everyone to have access. This is in development, coming soon, and as soon as it's available, I will share that out with the team. I will say in the meantime, we have a few suggestions for how to restrict that membership. So one is named group chat. So we showed you that today. So you could have a manager's group chat, and let's say there's a new manager that's added, you add them, you can share the conversation history, you can share files, you'd accomplish most of what you would probably accomplish when it comes to like file sharing and then conversations and meetings. You know that in named group chat, so that'd be my recommendation. Meeting about a study group, so maybe there's a breakout session or study group, you can also use it for that scenario. The other option is to create a smaller team, so maybe there's a manager's only team that you want to create. That's the other option that we would recommend. Great question from Seth. Is this really GA at ASU or are we in beta? Should I be promoting it and encouraging customers university-wide to use it? So I'm going to let my friends from the project team answer that question. I have my answer, but I want to give the official ASU UTA response. Melissa or Linda, do you have an answer for that?
We're in pilot.
We're in pilot.
We're currently in pilot. So we haven't opened it up to everybody stuff, but we will, we will create teams. If you have a team and you want to create it, we will. But it hasn't been opened up to everybody yet.
So if I have a team like you just suggested, should that team be limited to my UTO people?
Not exactly, no. If you had an idea of wanting to collaborate with video conferencing people across the issue, we would be able to, you just would put a request and we would license them. But the problem is they need to be trained. So you would now need to train them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
So if I go to the School of Psychology and talk to them and they have a great idea that would use this well, should I tell them about this?
You can tell them it's coming. Or if they're a potential pilot, you can bring them in as part of the pilot and test it out.
They should have a rep, right? There might be someone helping them.
Yeah.
They just need to hear that as well.
Yeah. So, we definitely talk about it and we can look at bringing them in, but.
So we really want the ownership to lie with the owner, the senior tag rep or the owner or admin of that department, right? We really want that to be their responsibility to vet those and make sure that it's okay. So if somebody in psychology comes to you and says, hey, I heard about this Teams, or you say, hey, I heard about this Teams, you need to talk to Kevin Baer, right? And see if Kevin, is this something they want to offer to everyone so they can have one communication piece, things like that. We want the ownership to be in the department level, not at the UTO level. Does that make sense?
So could they use that spreadsheet, and if that department already has a champion, they would refer the user to the champion in that department?
Whatever
if they don't have a champion for that department, who should they contact?
They're the owner or the admin.
Yeah,
So
and then
they're
they
IT, the largest, the highest IT rep in their department.
And then they request it from you.
They would have to talk with them about it, and then that person ideally would request it.
So that leads to the final question I'll cover today, and Sean and I will respond on the class roster conversation offline. Can we start adding a few more people to our teams now? They need to be licensed one at a time, correct? So as champions, you do need to work with your folks here on making sure everyone's licensed before you add them to the team. So that's part of the request process that Josh has mentioned.
Which I'll post, so we want people to use the ServiceNow going forward, right? So we've had everybody using the Teams Champion channel, but we want to get everybody used to requesting this via ServiceNow. So put in a ticket, I'll post in the Champions General channel what we require in your request, and then that'll help us not only track the request so that it doesn't get forgotten in all of the chats, but also that if it's done and it follows everything that we necessarily need to get everybody up and running. And I'll post that today.
All right, well, with that, we're at time, and I know you guys have busy days. So thank you for spending 2 hours with us today out of your day. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you feel like you're confident coming out of this room to go train your team on Teams and get started changing the way everyone collaborates, whether it's department collaboration, classroom collaboration, or research collaboration, or everything in between. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to folks on the phone as well.
Thank you.